Somewhere deep inside a climate-controlled laboratory in China, a creature smaller than your fingernail is spinning one of the most valuable materials on Earth. It won't live long. It will never see sunlight. And it has no idea that what it's producing will eventually sell for $20,000 on a Paris runway. This is the hidden world of luxury silk, and almost nobody knows how brutal, precise, and extraordinary this process truly is. Silk has existed for over 5,000 years. Chinese emperors guarded its secret under penalty of death. Today, that secret is no longer hidden. But what actually happens inside modern silk production facilities is something even fashion insiders rarely discuss, because the elegance of silk conceals an industrial operation of shocking scale and complexity. It begins not with fabric, not with looms, and not with designers. It begins with an egg barely visible to the naked eye. Inside specialized breeding laboratories, silkworm moths are scientifically selected for reproduction. This isn't random pairing. Geneticists analyze cocoon size, filament length, fiber diameter, and silk yield before allowing any moth to reproduce. Temperature is held at precisely 25 degrees Celsius. Humidity never fluctuates. Light cycles are managed artificially. A single female moth deposits between 400 and 700 eggs in one session, each one catalogued, tracked, and moved into incubation chambers. Before a single thread exists, an entire science has already begun. When those eggs hatch, the clock starts. Silkworm larvae are extraordinarily fragile in their first hours. Workers handle them wearing gloves, moving in measured, deliberate motions. The larvae are transferred into long wooden trays inside temperature-controlled farming halls that stretch hundreds of meters. Then the feeding begins, and it never stops. Silkworms consume only fresh mulberry leaves, not dried, not stored, fresh. Entire mulberry plantations, sometimes thousands of acres, exist solely to feed these insects. Workers harvest leaves 3 to 5 times daily and distribute them across thousands of trays. The silkworms eat constantly. Within 4 weeks, they increase their body weight 10,000 times. That number is not an exaggeration, and during that explosive growth, what's building inside them is something extraordinary. 2 glands filled with liquid silk protein, waiting to be released. When the silkworm is ready, it stops eating entirely. It begins moving its head in a figure-8 pattern, slowly at first, then faster. From its body, it extrudes a single continuous filament of liquid silk that hardens instantly on contact with air. Over 3 days, it wraps itself completely, layer by layer, creating a cocoon from a thread that, if carefully unwound, can stretch up to 1,500 meters. That's nearly a mile of usable silk fiber produced by one insect from its own body in 72 hours. This is where the process becomes ruthless. If the silkworm is allowed to complete its life cycle, the emerging moth will tear through that continuous filament, destroying it entirely. So before that happens, the cocoons are transferred into heated chambers. Steam or hot air penetrates the cocoon and terminates the developing moth inside, preserving the silk filament completely intact. Millions of cocoons are processed this way every single day. Luxury has a cost that the boutique never mentions. The preserved cocoons enter reeling stations, vast industrial floors lined with warm water basins and spinning machinery. Workers submerge the cocoons to dissolve the natural sericin gum binding the filament. Then, using extraordinary sensitivity, They locate the filament's starting point and begin unwinding it. Because a single strand is too fine for fabric, between 5 and 10 filaments are reeled together simultaneously into one composite silk thread. The machines pull continuously, winding thread onto massive spools in slow, deliberate rotation. 1 kilogram of finished raw silk requires approximately 10 kilograms of cocoons to produce. The raw silk now enters degumming chambers, where chemical baths strip away remaining sericin, revealing the fiber's true luminosity and softness beneath. Laboratory technicians test tensile strength, fiber uniformity, and surface smoothness. Batches that fail luxury standards are redirected to commercial markets. Only the finest grades, the ones with extraordinary smoothness and light reflection, advance. In luxury silk production, rejection rates can exceed 40% of total output. Approved fibers move into weaving facilities operating sophisticated jacquard looms capable of executing thousands of thread intersections per second with micron-level precision. Warp threads are loaded in counts of up to 10,000 individual strands. The weave density, angle, and pattern determine the final fabric's drape, sheen, and weight. Each variable adjusted for the specific luxury house placing the order. A single meter of exceptional woven silk can take 12 hours of machine time to produce. Some patterns require months of technical calibration before a single meter is woven. Dyeing is equally unforgiving. Luxury silk accepts color differently than any other fiber. It absorbs dye molecules at a molecular level, creating depth and luminosity impossible to replicate in synthetic fabric. Color matching is performed to within 2 delta E units, a measurement so fine it sits below the threshold of human perception. If the color isn't perfect, the entire batch is rejected. No exceptions. The finished silk fabric is then shipped, often by air, never by sea, to ateliers in Paris, Milan, and Rome. There, master cutters receive it like a living material. Silk shifts, moves, and frays with a sensitivity that demands decades of expertise to manage. Pattern pieces are cut individually, aligned to the fabric's grain with geometric precision. Seams are sewn with needles thinner than human hair. Some dresses incorporate hand-applied embroidery, requiring 300 hours of labor from a single artisan. Final inspection involves handheld optical magnifiers, raking light examination, and structural stress testing before any piece is approved. What emerges is a garment worth $20,000, $50,000, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. But inside that price is not just fabric and labor. It is 5,000 years of protected knowledge, the biological output of millions of silkworms, the precision of genetics, chemistry, engineering, and human craftsmanship layered invisibly into every centimeter. The softness you feel when you touch luxury silk is actually the compressed result of farming, sacrifice, science, and obsession, all made invisible so elegance can exist without explanation. Now you know what that elegance actually costs.